The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Here's something interesting. There are 2 states in the U.S. that don't allow drivers to pump their own gas. I've only ever been to one of those 2 states, New Jersey, and it's actually sort of surprising when I start looking around and immediately someone is pumping gas because you don't have the option. There's no such thing as self-service in New Jersey. Same thing in Oregon. In Oregon, you're not allowed to pump your own gas. And now there is a kind of clever and interesting documentary which is telling the story of Oregonians who are angry that people around the U.S. believe that they don't know how to pump their own gas because of this rule that exists in Oregon.
Yeah, and another part of the news, too, is that people in towns with fewer than 4,000 people will start to be able to pump their own gas. So it's a big win for them.
The law is changing, and I wonder why it's fewer than 4,000. Is it because if it's so small, it's kind of pointless to have full-time staff just to pump gas when you probably have a few cars coming through?
Or maybe it's like the middle of the night, right? And it's a lot cheaper to have customers pump their own gas than to send an attendant out there.
Maybe so, yeah. I tend to, I've always had mixed feelings about the pumping own gas thing because on the one hand, I don't want someone else pumping gas, and I'm against the tipping industrial complex. I tip whenever it's appropriate, but I am against, and I know you don't have to tip, but I feel kind of bad because I know that it's an opportunity to tip and whatever. But on the other hand, you have a lot of incompetent people, and I'm guessing that you reduce the number of accidents related to people pumping their own gas and either, I don't even know what you could do, spray gas all over the ground or something, which then might combust. I don't really know. But generally, I want to pump my own gas. I never go to full service.
And that's why these Oregonians who haven't pumped gas in their entire lives are so concerned. They think they may start a fire or get gasoline all over themselves.
Sure.
I've never done either one of those things in my entire career pumping gas.
You've grown up pumping your own gas. As soon as you got your license, you were pumping your own gas. That's the thing. What if all of a sudden you're 50 and you've only lived in Oregon and you've never pumped your own gas?
I know.
But
I had to do it for the first time at one point, right? And
that's true.
I succeeded.
But you had been watching people around you do it. Well, I guess if you lived in Oregon, you've been watching the attendant do it your whole life anyway. So I guess it's kind of the same thing, right?
It doesn't make any sense. And I feel like we should do a tutorial even just here, right? I mean, you turn your car off, although you don't have to.
I see more and more people not turn their car off. Yeah. And growing up, I was always told, you got to turn the car off because it could explode if you pump your gas with the car on. And then I later was told, that's not really true. You can have the car on while you're pumping gas. I always turn my car off. Even if I can leave it on, I don't need to, so why am I going to leave the car on?
Well, I think what you don't want to do if you leave your car on is fill it up all the way, because then the gas could start splattering back at you.
Yeah.
That would be the only concern. But then, I mean, you choose regular or premium.
Sure.
You can go into the gas station and give them $20, say 20 on 4.
Right.
Or fill it up or whatever you want, however you want to do it. Put your credit card in. I mean, it's a very, very simple process.
Freedom and liberty. However you want to pump gas, you should be able to do it. And I think it's good that Oregon is doing this, and I wish that New Jersey would also do it. But I think that there's some lobby that's behind keeping it this way, because I get it. You're going to lose jobs as soon as you say people can pump their own gas. But it's just so hard to imagine. On the one hand, we have cars that can drive themselves, but you need an employee just to put gas in the car. It seems incongruous.
I think because back in the day, maybe it was a lot more dangerous for lay people to pump their own gas.
I guess.
But now it's just such a simple process, and the laws haven't been updated accordingly.
Yeah.
And you do have people's jobs on the line, so that's where it gets tricky, I guess.
It's, again, I go back to that idea that you're not going to hold back progress just to avoid the loss of some jobs. And I always tell the example, the horse buggy drivers were worried about cars because they were going to lose their jobs. Imagine if we were still dealing with horse-driven buggies merely because we didn't want those buggy drivers to lose their jobs. It seems crazy. And I think that the pumping of gas is also, at some point there will be a paradigm shift where we won't even have gas cars. Other countries have already set a date for that.
I wonder
then what are you going to do?
If Oregon at large and New Jersey will hold out until that moment, right?
Oh, and try to resist alternatives to fossil fuel vehicles. Yeah.
Or just make sure that an attendant's pumping gas until we no longer need gas.
Yeah.
Either one of those
I wouldn't be shocked to see that. Raw water. I've been seeing so much about raw water. This is now the new thing. Now you might be saying, hold on, raw water. I don't cook. I'm not boiling. What does that mean? Raw water. Raw water means untreated water, water that comes out of the earth and is totally untreated, meaning that it has not had any of the bacteria or parasites or chemicals that exist in water that are not particularly good for you. And the marketing campaign around this has been so good at confusing people because they basically say the following: hey, listen, you drink mineral water, right? That has minerals in it. So why not get water that has been not treated at all, and it has the full range of minerals and bacteria and everything else, which is really, really healthy for you. Of course, what they're not telling you is that the minerals in mineral water are mostly similar to the additives that you see in those sports drinks and drinks like Pedialyte. You're talking about various types of salts for the most part, right? When you're talking about possibly illness-carrying bacteria in your water, it's not the same thing. But this marketing campaign is doing so well at offering raw water to people as some kind of healthy thing. And
No.
people are actually getting sick from it. There are real risks to drinking this stuff.
Yeah, and of course, our water purification process is one of the best inventions of our time. Why
Of
would we
course.
want to go back to the days where you were dying prematurely because you were taking in all these viruses and
Yeah.
bacteria from something as simple as your drinking water?
And doctors are increasingly warning people. It's increasingly popular in California, although I saw
course.
some of it here as well. Warning people, listen, this is dangerous. You don't want to drink this stuff. It's not a good idea.
What's interesting is there may be a coalition of people on the far right and people on the far left who would both be willing to buy raw water.
Oh, yeah. It's
because-
just like with that anti-vaxxers.
Right,
It's,
yeah.
For different reasons, you have far left and far right anti-vaxxers. And the raw water thing is not altogether different from that.
Yeah, because you think of like the Alex Jones viewers who think that they're putting chemicals in the water.
Yeah.
And then you have people on the far left who are against GMOs and are taking like that hippy dippy route,
Sure.
right? So I think there is a weird coalition there.
The raw milk thing, to a lesser degree, I don't know that it's
What's
as
that?
big now, but basically milk that has not been pasteurized. It
Okay.
hasn't been
Straight from the udder.
straight from the udder, essentially. And of course, most of the time that's perfectly fine, but you can also get really sick from raw milk, and that was a whole controversy.
A
at
bunch
one
of
point.
pus in it too. Why would you want to drink that?
Yeah, I don't know why you would. That's not my thing. But I knew a guy in Western Massachusetts who was fully on the raw milk, and he was convinced that just the taste is so much better. And eventually, we actually set up a blind taste test. He couldn't tell the difference, which one was
okay.
the other. So the taste apparently was total placebo effect. And he eventually got off the raw milk.
Yeah, I mean the raw milk doesn't sound as bad as the raw water.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that the FDA isn't on this by now, right?
I don't
You'd
know
think
what
they would have to restrict and regulate.
I
such
have
a
no
thing.
idea. I have no idea. The other day at Whole Foods, I saw alkaline water was being sold. Just water. It's just filtered water,
Okay.
but apparently the pH of it is just right for you. Alkaline water was being sold.
What's your opinion on fluoride in water? Because it does purify it, and I think it's good for your teeth.
Mm.
But on the downside, there may be studies that show that it's bad for your brain and could cause some impairment there.
I've not seen any credible studies that
Right.
that's what fluoride does, and I'm okay with water fluoridation as a public health initiative.
Yeah, I grew up in a town that had fluoride in the water, and
Yeah.
I'm 80%, 90% what I would have been otherwise.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
pretty-
no, no.
pretty good.
You're almost at full potential despite the fluoride in the water for sure. Google has this thing on their campus where they have free bicycles at Mountain View, California, at their headquarters. They have free bicycles. You can grab them. You can get around campus, etc. And they keep getting stolen. Google is saying that they provide the bikes for use only to employees on the campus, but that both employees and locals are just taking the bikes and often not bringing them back. And I don't know that this is hugely shocking. It's become a thing where the locals kind of feel like, hey, if I need a bike, I'll rent it for free and then I'll bring it back because they're not locked up in any way. And then they don't always bring them back. Obviously, this was going to happen. I think there was some idea that because it's Google, this would never happen. Number one, Google employees are not gods, or whatever term you want to apply to them. And number two, when anybody can just grab the bikes, of course it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's interesting because it is Google and they are a high-tech company, so
Yeah.
you'd think they'd be able to install GPSs in the bikes
Oh, sure.
and lock them as necessary, right? I mean,
I
that's the only
guess.
thing I thought of.
Yeah, why not make it so that your employee badge is needed to unlock the bike or something
Right.
like that, right?
One of these bikes was found in Mexico.
Oh, is that true?
Pretty hilarious, yeah.
That's funny. I would love to do more biking. It's difficult in some places. Like the Google campus is perfect because it's designed to be great for walking and for biking. In the area where our studio is, like to get from here to my house, I've got to cross or bike on
Yeah.
some pretty serious not highways, but overpasses, underpasses, very, very busy roads with no bike lanes, etc. You've biked to the studio.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah.
the way that you go, without going into extreme detail, you have a bike lane for a lot of the trip, right?
Yeah, pretty much 80% of my trip has a bike lane.
That's brilliant.
And also, it's a heavily trafficked area.
Yep.
But there are also a bunch of stoplights. So the fastest cars will travel along those roads are maybe 30 miles an hour, which I'm not too concerned about.
Yep.
The only thing I really have to be concerned about in the bike lane is cars turning, taking a right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And sometimes they don't check their mirror, they don't check the bike lane.
Yep.
And, just crazy people you always have to watch out for, I guess.
I would be genuinely pretty concerned about that because the driving in Boston is just atrocious, completely atrocious. Now, in some parts of the city, Boston has actually done something really, I think, good with the bike lane, which is they've taken the bike lane and they've put it between the angle parking or the parallel parking and the sidewalk. So if you imagine, you've got cars riding in the middle, and then to the right of that, you've got cars that are parked.
Parking lane.
And then you've got a bike lane next to the sidewalk. So it uses the parked cars as a buffer. Now, some drivers don't like it because a lot of roads have had to be converted from 2 lanes to 1 lane to accommodate this.
And there are fewer parking spaces.
And there are also
now,
fewer
which can
parking
hurt
spaces.
businesses, too.
Yep, for sure. But I think it is really, really good for bike safety. In Cambridge, there's a big part in Harvard Square that has that.
And there's also these bike share programs, too, where you can just grab a bike from one of these predetermined locations, rent it for a few hours, whatever you need, and then you can go to your destination, find the local place to drop it off, and you're done with it.
Is it, it's not called City Bike here, right? That's in New York. Is it like Hub Bike?
I'm not sure what the name is.
Hub something? Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
and some towns have it so that you don't actually have to drop the bike off at like a predetermined location.
Oh,
you can
really?
literally just like leave it on the sidewalk.
Locked up,
and it
I
will
presume.
it locks itself.
Huh.
And then the next person pays for it using like an app on their phone, and they scan it, and once it recognizes like the credit card number, debit card number, it'll unlock the bike, and then GPS tracks where it is at all times. But you can literally just drop it off wherever you want.
How
within
can
the
it
city.
lock itself? What does that mean? Like the wheels lock up?
I'd imagine so, yeah.
But someone could still steal the entire bike, right?
I mean, I'm sure it can get hacked, and yeah, someone can steal the entire bike, but it's tracked too.
Oh, I see.
So
you'd be able to track it down.
Yeah, and I mean the bike is probably worth only a few $100s, right?
Right.
So I mean it's not like it's the biggest risk to take if you're in
No,
the city.
but every bike gets stolen. I mean, any unlocked bike in Boston, in New York, even in Western Mass, in the progressive paradise of Northampton, Massachusetts, big bike-friendly town, any unlocked bike is gone.
And didn't that happen to you once too?
Yeah, my bike. In fact, once I had a specific bike rack that I would lock my bike up at, where I used to live in Northampton, Massachusetts. And I locked it up. I used to do the thing where like you basically run both the frame and the front wheel through the lock and into. But then I got so lazy and I thought, no one's going to steal the bike. I'll just lock up the front wheel.
Oh, you should have just done the frame then.
Yeah. And I got back a couple weeks later and the bike was gone. Just the wheel was there. Yep. So I've since gotten a new bike and I don't do that anymore.
Did you just have to buy a bike with one wheel?
No, I just got a brand new bike. That bike was kind of on its way out. It wasn't the best bike, so I have a better bike now. People will be pleased to know. Okay, that's it for the bonus show. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.